How does a man who has never had to worry about money in his life end up sitting beside a woman who patches other people's shoes just to eat? How do two people from worlds so different, they might as well live on separate planets, end up sharing the same future? This is a story about what happens when one careless second changes everything for both of them. Marcus Ellison had built his wealth the hard way, or so he liked to believe. He had started his investment firm from a two-room office in Atlanta with one assistant and a coffee machine that broke every other week. That was 12 years ago. Now the firm occupied 2 full floors of a glass building downtown, managed portfolios worth hundreds of millions, and had his name on a brass plate by the front door. Marcus was 41, unmarried, and almost entirely focused on work. Not because he was lonely or bitter. He simply had not found a reason to slow down yet. On the morning everything changed, he was not thinking about love or fate, or the kind of things people talk about in stories. He was thinking about a client presentation that had not gone the way he planned. The numbers were solid, the strategy was clean, but the lead investor, a cautious man named Gerald Prentice, who wore the same gray suit every time they met, had raised questions Marcus did not have full answers to yet. It had been a frustrating morning, and as his driver Raymond pulled into the slow morning traffic on Vine Street, Marcus sat in the back of the black SUV with his phone in his hand and his mind running through every number he had presented. He did not see her until Raymond hit the brakes. The woman had stepped into the crosswalk at the exact moment the light shifted. She was carrying a large plastic bin on her hip, the kind used to haul shoes, and she moved with a slight unsteadiness, favoring her right side in a way that made each step look like a small effort. The SUV stopped in time, but the sudden jolt made her lose her footing. The bin slipped, shoes scattered across the asphalt, and she went down hard on her left knee, her hands catching the ground. Marcus was out of the car before Raymond could say anything. "Hey, are you okay?" He was already crouching beside her, one hand on her elbow. Up close he could see she was young, maybe late 20s, with close-cropped hair and a deep cut opening on her knee through her jeans. She was trying to pull herself upright and waving him off at the same time. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice was steadier than her hands. "I'm fine, just help me get the shoes. The shoes can wait, you're bleeding." "The shoes cannot wait," she said. "Those are customer orders." He looked at her for a moment. Then he started picking up shoes. She watched him for half a second, this man in a tailored coat, gathering battered loafers and children's sneakers off the street, and something shifted in her expression. She started helping. Together they filled the bin back up. A few drivers honked. Neither of them looked up. When the bin was full, Marcus straightened and said, "I'm taking you to get that knee looked at." "I don't need a hospital, you're bleeding through your jeans. I've bled through worse." She picked up the bin and tested her weight on the knee, and he watched her work through the pain without flinching. "I'm already late delivering these. I have a shop 2 blocks over. Then I'll drive you to your shop first, and then I'm taking you somewhere to get that cleaned up." She looked at him the way people look at someone they're trying to figure out fast. "Why?" "Because my car startled you and you fell. That's reason enough." Her name was Celeste Okafor. She told him this in the car, sitting with the bin of shoes wedged between her feet, her knee pressed against a cloth Raymond handed back from the front. She had a small shoe repair and custom order business. She ran out of a rented space on Delmar Street. Not a proper storefront, more like a wide room with a workbench and a half window facing the sidewalk where customers passed orders through. She had been doing it for 3 years. Before that, she told him simply, things had been different. He did not push on that. He noticed the way she said it. Things had been different, with a flatness that meant the subject had walls around it. At the urgent care clinic a few blocks away, the nurse cleaned and dressed the wound while Celeste sat without complaint, asking once about the time, because she had 2 pickups scheduled before noon. Marcus sat in the chair by the window and made a call to his office, told them to push his 11 o'clock 30 minutes. When Celeste came out of the exam room, she looked mildly surprised he was still there. "You didn't have to wait," she said. "I know." He stood. "I'll take you back." In the car she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Thank you. For the shoes and for this." "Of course." Most people would have just asked if I was okay and kept driving. Marcus did not say anything to that. He thought about it for the rest of the morning. That afternoon, after the rescheduled meeting went better than the first, he found himself thinking about the way she had said it. Most people would have just kept driving. He had not thought of it as a choice. It had simply felt wrong to leave, but he kept turning that sentence over, the matter-of-fact way she had said it, like it was just a fact about the world she had long accepted. He went back to Delmar Street the next day. He told himself it was to check on the knee. That was partly true. The half window was open. Inside he could see her bent over a workbench, doing something careful and slow with a piece of leather. He knocked on the window frame. She looked up. "The man from yesterday," she said. "Marcus," he said. "How's the knee? Stiff?" "But fine." She studied him. "Did you need something repaired?" "No, I just wanted to see how you were doing." She sat back slightly. "You came back just for that?" "Yes." A pause. Then she said, "You want to come in?" The shop was small and smelled like leather and rubber cement and something faintly floral he couldn't place. Every surface had a purpose. Tools hung on pegboard. Finished shoes sat in rows on a low shelf by the door, each pair wrapped in tissue and tagged with a name. She worked quickly and with precision, and as she talked, slowly at first, then more easily, he could see that she was someone who had made a complete world inside this small space. She had grown up in Cincinnati, she told him eventually, one of 3 kids. Her mother had worked nights at a laundry. Her father had been in and out of the picture. She had gotten into a design program at a state school and made it 2 years before she ran out of money and couldn't find enough work to cover the difference. She went home, took a job, took another one, tried to save enough to go back. That was when the accident happened. She didn't say what kind of accident at first. She kept working while she talked, and Marcus stayed quiet, because he had learned by then that she filled silence better when he didn't rush her. It had been a car accident. She was 24. She had been a passenger, not the driver, coming back from a friend's birthday in the rain. The other car ran a light. She had been in the hospital for 11 days, 3 surgeries. When they told her the nerve damage in her right leg was permanent, that she would always have some instability, some weakness, that the leg would never be fully reliable again. She had not cried in the hospital. She had cried later, alone in the bathroom of her mother's house, sitting on the tile floor for a long time. "I had plans," she said. "Big ones. I wanted to design shoes. Not fix them, design them. I had sketches going back to when I was 16. She smoothed the edge of a leather sole with her thumb. "But the accident took most of my savings, paying for what insurance didn't cover. And then recovery took a year and a half. By the time I could work again, I had nothing left to go back to school with." She paused. "So I taught myself to repair instead. And then I started learning construction. And then I had customers who wanted custom work, and I figured out I could actually do it. The designing," Marcus said. "Smaller scale than I planned. But yes." She looked up. "It's still shoes. Still mine." Marcus drove home that evening with the feeling of having been shown something true. Not dramatic, not performed, just true, and it stayed with him. He went back a 3rd time, and a 4th. He began stopping at the shop in the early evenings, sometimes bringing food from a place around the corner, because he had noticed she worked through lunch and dinner both. She accepted the food without making a production of it, which he appreciated. She talked more easily now. She asked him questions too. Real ones, not polite ones, about what he actually did, how decisions got made in finance, whether he thought the work meant anything beyond the numbers. He liked her questions. They made him think. What he did not expect was the evening he arrived and the shop was dark. He knocked. No answer. He stepped back and checked the time. She should have been there. She was always there until at least 7. He waited for a few minutes, then texted the number she had given him for business inquiries. No reply. He drove home slowly. He told himself she had simply closed early. People did that. It was not a reason for the unease he felt. The next morning she did not reply. By noon he was in his car headed back to Delmar Street. The window was still closed, but as he was about to leave, a woman from the alterations shop next door stepped out and told him Celeste had been taken to Mercy General 2 nights ago. She had collapsed at the workbench. The woman said it matter-of-factly. The way neighbors in close quarters learn to share information without drama. She did not know more than that. Marcus drove to Mercy General. He found her on the second floor. She was awake, sitting up against the pillows, when he stepped into the doorway. She looked tired in the particular way that is different from needing sleep. The kind of tired that comes from something internal. When she saw him, her face went through several things quickly, and then she looked away toward the window. "How did you find out?" she said. It was not quite a question. "The woman next door told me." He came in and sat down. "What happened?" She was quiet for a moment. "Exhaustion," she said, "and my iron has been low for a while, and I kept not doing anything about it, and the leg has been worse lately. The nerve damage, sometimes it sends pain up the whole side and I can't sleep." She said all of this carefully, like she was reciting facts about someone else. "The doctor says I've been running myself down for months. Why didn't you say anything?" She looked at him then. "Say anything to who?" He sat with that. "You don't have to handle everything alone," he said after a moment. "I've been handling everything alone since I was 24. She didn't say it with bitterness, just with the steadiness of someone stating something that is simply, plainly true. That's not a complaint, it's just how it is. It doesn't have to be." She looked at him carefully. "Marcus, you're a very kind man, but I've learned not to let people get too close to situations they might walk away from. Because people do walk away. I've come back every time," he said. "You've known me for 3 weeks. That's true." He leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. "Then give me more time. I'm not going anywhere." She didn't answer, but she also didn't tell him to leave. He came back the next evening, and the one after that. He brought her a book she had mentioned once in passing. She looked surprised that he had remembered, and he sat in the chair by the window while she rested, and they talked about things that had nothing to do with either of their difficult histories. Old movies. The best gas stations in Cincinnati versus Atlanta. Whether it was ever acceptable to put sugar in cornbread. She laughed twice. Real laughs, not polite ones. And each time it seemed to catch her slightly off guard, like laughing was something she had to remember how to do. When the doctor came in one afternoon while Marcus was there, he stayed to listen. The doctor was direct. Celeste had been managing her condition without proper follow-up for years. The nerve damage was complex, but with consistent physical therapy and proper treatment, there was meaningful room for improvement. Not a full recovery, but significantly better function, less pain, more stability. It would take time and it would require resources she did not currently have. Marcus said, "What does she need?" The doctor looked at him and then at Celeste. Celeste looked at the ceiling. "Marcus," she said quietly. "I'm asking," he said. "Just tell me what she needs." The doctor outlined it. Twice weekly physical therapy, a specialist consultation, medication, possibly one outpatient procedure down the road. All of it was manageable. None of it was cheap. After the doctor left, Celeste said, "I can't let you pay for my medical care." "Why not?" "Because that's not something you do for someone you've known 3 weeks. I know you well enough to know you wouldn't have let it get this bad if you'd had any other option." He looked at her directly. "And I have options, so let me use them. And if you change your mind later, then I'll have already paid the bills and they won't be undone." He almost smiled. "There's no take-back on medical payments, Celeste." She was quiet for a long time. Outside the window, the city moved the way it always did, indifferent and busy. Finally, she said, "I don't know how to just accept help like this, Al. You accepted the ride, you accepted the food. That was different." "It wasn't different, it was just smaller." He met her eyes. "Let me help, please." She exhaled slowly. "Okay," she said, "okay." She was discharged 4 days later. She went back to her apartment, which was small, and on the 3rd floor of a building without an elevator, which was hard on the leg. Marcus did not suggest she move somewhere else. He understood by now that her independence was not pride exactly. It was something she had built deliberately, out of necessity, after the accident took everything she had not chosen to lose. He was not going to try to take it apart, but he did arrange for a car to take her to physical therapy 3 times a week. And he stopped by the shop in the evenings when she was back to working, which was sooner than the doctor had suggested. He brought food. She stopped, pretending she was going to argue about it, The therapy worked slowly the way real things do. Some weeks felt like nothing had changed. Other weeks she would mention, almost in passing, that she had walked the 2 blocks from her apartment to the coffee shop without stopping, that she had gone up the stairs faster, that the pain at night was less. Each small thing she reported as though it were barely worth mentioning, and each time Marcus felt something shift quietly inside him. He recognized what was happening. He was not a man who confused things or avoided what was true. He was falling in love with her, not with the idea of her, not with her difficulty or her resilience as a concept, but with Celeste herself. The way she argued about things she cared about, the way she held a piece of leather and could see what it would become, the way she made him feel, for the first time in a long time, like slowing down was not the same as losing ground. He told her on a Tuesday evening, which was not a dramatic night by any measure. She had just shown him a prototype she had been working on, a boot design, hand-stitched, with a detail along the heel she was particularly pleased with, and she was watching his face to see if he understood what made it good. He did understand. He told her so, and then he said, "I need to tell you something else." She set the boot down. "I think I've been coming back here every evening for a reason," he said, "and I think you probably know what it is. I just want to say it clearly. I love being around you, Celeste. I think about you when I'm not here, and I would like, if you're willing, to stop pretending that this is just me checking in." She was very still for a moment. The shop was quiet except for the faint noise of the street outside. "I'm scared," she said. It was the most direct thing she had ever said to him about herself, and he could tell it cost her something to say it. "I know," he said. "I'm not asking you not to be scared. I'm asking if you want to try anyway." She looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "Yes, I want to try." What followed was not sudden or cinematic. It was slow, the way things that last usually are. She kept her shop. He kept his office. They had dinner together most evenings, and sometimes they didn't talk much, and that was fine too. Her physical therapy continued to show progress. By the 3rd month, she was walking without the instability that had marked every step since the accident. By the 4th month, the specialist said the procedure he had been considering might not be necessary at all. Marcus had been quietly working on something during that time. He had talked to people he knew in the fashion and retail world, asked questions, done research the same way he did due diligence on any investment, carefully, thoroughly, without announcing it before he was ready. One Saturday morning, he told Celeste he wanted to show her something. She got into the car without asking questions, which was new for her and which meant something. He drove her to a commercial space on Auburn Avenue. It was a corner unit, good light, high ceilings, a wide front window that would display shoes exactly the way she had described to him once, half listening while she sketched and not realizing she was describing her dream out loud. The key was in his pocket. She got out of the car and stood on the sidewalk, looking at the space through the window. She could see the empty interior, the clean floors, the potential of it. "Marcus," she said, "your designs are good enough," he said. "I've had 3 people in the industry look at your portfolio. People who have no reason to say yes to anything. And they all said the same thing. You're ready." She turned to look at him. Her eyes were bright in a way he had not seen before. "This is too much," she said. But she was already reaching for the key. "It's an investment," he said, "in something I believe in." She unlocked the door. She walked inside, slowly, the way you walk into a space you already know you will spend years in. She stood in the middle of the empty floor and turned in a slow circle, and he stayed near the door and watched her, and he did not say anything because there was nothing to add. When she turned back to him, she was crying, which surprised him, because in everything he had seen her face, she had not cried once. Not when she talked about the accident, not during the hard weeks of therapy, not when she was exhausted in that hospital bed. "I had the sketch for this when I was 20 years old," she said. "A corner shop, big front window, my name on the door. Then it's been waiting long enough," he said. She crossed the room and put her arms around him, and he held her the way you hold someone when you understand exactly what this moment cost them to get to. Outside, Auburn Avenue was already moving, already loud, already full of people who did not know that something quiet and significant had just happened in the corner unit with the good light and the wide front window. Life does not always reward the people who deserve it fastest. Some of the strongest people you will ever encounter are the ones the world passed by 100 times before anyone stopped. Celeste had been building something out of scraps for years. Her skill, her business, her ability to keep going while the world drove past without slowing down. And when one person finally did slow down, it changed the direction of both their lives. Do not underestimate what it means to stop. Do not underestimate what it means to come back.